Dinesh D'Souza went to Louie Gohmert's birthday bash. That I enjoy this story very much because it already sounds like I'm starting a joke. So Dinesh D'Souza walks into Louie Gohmert's birthday bash, and then... No, but this is serious, and it gets comical in its own way. So he gave a speech for everybody there, lucky them, and he said so many mockable things that I don't know where to begin. Speaking directly about Gohmert, he said, quote, "He has the kind of American spirit and fortitude and good sense, but also practicality that's very much needed today." Yes, the guy that said that there are Al-Qaeda camps in Mexico has good sense. The guy who said President Obama is trying to remake the Ottoman Empire. Yes, that guy makes sense. No, he's oftentimes called by the Young Turks, and I've picked this up also. He's the dumbest congressman. He's one of America's dumbest congressmen, if not the dumbest congressman. Okay, it's between him and Steve King. They're neck and neck, but I think Louie Gohmert might win in the end. He edges him out because Louie Gohmert also sounds stupid. He sounds like it takes a while for the synapses and neurons in his brain to work properly. So then he moves on to the issue of wealth and, of course, what liberals think about it, because he can't go 35 seconds without creating a straw man about what other people believe. So D'Souza says, quote, "One of the things we need to do is to contest the left on the issue of justice. They allege that the wealth of America is based on theft, and it's the right of the government to come and seize your wealth, and my wealth, because that wealth is stolen goods. And they have an elaborate historical and contemporary argument to prove it. In effect, what they're saying is that your stuff that's in your house, so your TV, your couch, your savings accounts, your kid's college account, that's sort of like Nazi stolen art. It belongs to somebody else." You got us, man. You got us. It was me and Keith Olbermann and Michael Moore was there, and the people from MoveOn.org, of course. Representative from the Black Panthers was there. We all sat down and we said, okay, we need to find a way to message this. Let's try to convince people that their flat screen TV is like Nazi stolen art. So they're like Nazis. Tell the Americans they're like Nazis because they have a college account for their kids. That's exactly the argument we make, man. Dinesh D'Souza, you are on to something, sir. It's so amazing to me that, like, they don't even bother to stop and think for a second or do any research on the Google machine. They don't say, well, let me make sure I'm not committing a logical fallacy here. This is the clearest example of a straw man argument ever made. Let me tell my opponents what they believe instead of listening to them when they tell me what they believe. You think that anything anybody has is like stolen Nazi art. Now, look, here's the reality about the issue of wealth. What the Republicans want to do and what the conservatives want to do, and look, they're on the record for this. You could ask Dinesh D'Souza himself, or you can ask any right-wing politician or any pundit. What they say is, well, we want low taxes. Now, specifically, they talk about the rich, but they'll pretend like, oh, we want low taxes for everybody. It's nonsense. When they implement their plans, they want to raise taxes on the middle class and the poor, but we'll be kind to them and say they just want to cut taxes and let everybody keep what they have. Well, here's the problem with that. We live in a world where the 85 richest people have more wealth than the bottom 3.5 billion combined. 85 people, which you can fit on a double-decker bus. 85 people have more wealth than half the world. So when you live in that world to say, all right, guys, everybody keeps what they have, and then let's continue living, what you're really saying is, I am in favor of a wildly unjust and unfair and terrible system. Go. That's the actual argument you're making, whether or not you realize it. And what do liberals do? Well, liberals come along, like myself and like others, and we say, wait, there's a better way to do this, man. Now, we're not saying you can't be rich. We're not saying you can't be extremely rich. But what we are saying is there's got to be a system of rules. You need to follow the rules. There's got to be a progressive tax code so that if you make $4 billion a year, you pay more in taxes than somebody who makes $20,000 a year. That radical idea. And what we also say is, do yourself a favor and acknowledge this reality. We don't live in a world where on day one, everybody was given, we divvied up all the resources equally, and everybody started on the same line, and then we shot a gun in the air, and it was like, go! Everybody try to succeed in a meritocracy system where the harder you work, the further you go. Life and the economy, it's not like a foot race. It's not a 100-yard dash, okay? So when you acknowledge the fact that not everybody had an equal opportunity, not everybody started with the same amount of wealth, and then we decided to go and we agreed on the terms, when you realize that's not the case, that oftentimes wealth comes from very roundabout, fucked up, sneaky ways. Wealth comes about from this country conquering this other country and pillaging and taking their shit and then kicking the other people out. Or we have a system where for 250 years, one group of people were slaves and they had absolutely nothing, and then they were freed and they weren't even given reparations. And then you're supposed to say, well, why don't you have as much as we do now? I don't know. Maybe fucking history? Have you read a textbook, dipshit? So when you acknowledge that not everything is equal, it's not a meritocracy, well, then it becomes, well, how do we try to redress the grievances and create a system where there is still some level of a meritocracy, and the harder you work, the more money you make and all that stuff, but everybody needs to get an equal opportunity, everybody needs to get a fair shot, everybody should have education and health care, and they should make it so that if you're a poor kid born in Harlem, you have the same shot as Mitt Romney's son to make it, okay? But to people like Dinesh D'Souza, people like Louie Gohmert, all these conservatives, they wholly reject the historical argument. They wholly reject the idea that this isn't a meritocracy. They wholly reject the idea that there's systemic flaws and problems with the way the system works. And they just say, nah, let everybody keep what they have, and that's the end of the conversation, and that's that. Well, then thank you for admitting that you prefer that Paris Hilton have millions of dollars for showing off her ass 24/7 and somebody who works 2 full-time jobs at 2 different fast food establishments and bust their ass until they die, that they don't even deserve to make enough money to survive. Thank you for admitting that you have that idiotic position, and this is why we will proceed to crush you with our policy ideas.